Hey, thanks for joining us at the table. I'm Fiona and I'm joined by the lovely Melody, Maritza and Rachel.
Hi, Fiona.
Maritza, it's your first time.
It is.
Thank you so much for being here with us. It's good to have you on the show. Now, first we are going to be talking about diversity on television. We'll also be looking at what age should kids leave home, or are they leaving home? But first, it's time for some quick topics with the ladies. Now, have you ever been in that situation where you remember their face, but you just can't remember their name?
Every day.
All the time.
Can we all sing at the once? Like, hello?
Yeah.
So, Mel, when have you been in that situation and how do you handle it?
Oh, well, usually I just kind of go, hi, ha, ha, and just smile and, yeah, I feel really bad about it.
You feel really
actually.
bad
Yeah.
all the time?
I'm like, hey, girl, how you doing?
Yeah, that's what I did. I had a high school reunion just on the weekend and there were some people, it's been 20 years, I couldn't remember their names. So you know what I was doing? Hey, bro, hey, sis, you know? And some people I did remember, but it is quite embarrassing, especially in this day and age. You think it's good to remember someone's
They
name.
didn't have name tags at the reunion?
No, it was just at a social setting. So, no, there was no time
I
for it.
actually ask them for their name.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, like in a sort of conversational way, I just say, hey, I'm so sorry, what was your name again?
I find that a bit rude. See, I find that rude. I find, like, you should remember someone's name.
Well, it's easy to introduce them to someone else. Say, oh, this is Maritza, and then they introduce
I
them.
love
I do that sometimes. I was like, oh, yeah, and this is so-and-so, meet. And then I wait for them to introduce and just like, oh, so that's their name.
Yeah,
I think
and
for
you
me,
just listen out.
it's just been awkward because I've been caught out in a situation where I just pretended to talk to this person for 20 minutes and I did not know their name the whole time, and that just put me off, and so now I just ask for their names.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, ladies, what's the best and worst wedding gift that you have received?
Ooh. Really good wedding gift is money, because then you can decide what you want to use it for. I didn't get any bad wedding gifts.
Yeah, I think, well, we had a destination wedding, so anyone that flew over, I thought that was gift enough. You know, we didn't expect anyone to pull out, but they did, but yeah.
My one is, it's a vacuum cleaner.
A vacuum
that the
is
worst?
best?
You didn't want
That's the best,
I
actually.
hope it was a Dyson. Was it a Dyson?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, over there.
That was amazing. It sucked up everything.
What's the worst gift? Come on.
We didn't really get any bad gifts because we had a registry, so everything that we got, I wanted anyway, but we got people doubling up on things.
Oh, so you got
So we ended up with 2 toasters, for example.
Did you give some of that away?
Well, my husband was just like, we could use 2 toasters. I was like, no, we cannot use 2 toasters. We
Yeah.
need to give one away.
What about, do you know of someone that's been given a bad gift and what they've done with it?
I just think
Recycle, re-gift?
I think it's funny when people buy something bad, quote unquote, and you have a registry. You know, they have all these
Yeah.
options of things to buy, and they decide to go off and get their own thing anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Well, look, the last one. Did you have a checklist before you met your husband of, you know, things he had to meet, like, you know, tall, blonde, whatever it was, and how does he match up prior to being married? Does he match up? Your husband match up?
I had a checklist.
Yes.
I met my husband when we were 15, so we weren't even thinking about marriage at that stage, and we were just best friends for ages. And over the years, as our friendship progressed, I looked at my checklist and I was actually like, hey, this guy actually matches everything on my checklist.
Maybe it was subliminally picked up everything that
Yeah.
you wanted in a person,
Yeah.
and you met that person.
Yeah.
Good for him for moving out of the friend zone.
And then he put a
Yeah.
ring on.
And then, yep.
Rachel, what about you?
I did have a checklist, I guess, just some things that were required for me, but it was there were more character things, so my husband definitely met those things that I was looking for.
Yeah. What was in that checklist?
Like things like someone who's really funny, someone who's passionate about something, passionate about people, and I think that those things are coming true in our marriage. Like, we find that we're really wanting to be friends with our neighbors. That's really important to me, you know, and that was something that I saw in my husband, like how kind and generous he was.
Yeah, some really interesting insights there, ladies. Thanks for sharing. Now, we're going to be talking about an article that appeared in the Sydney Morning Herald, written by Casey Edward. She is a journalist and she said that spelling doesn't matter. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but in an industry where spelling, I think, does matter, she discredits it and says it's got nothing to do with intelligence. Mel, do you think it's got anything to do with intelligence?
I don't think it's got to do with intelligence, but I think spelling still does matter, because you may not be able to spell, that's fine, but someone's still there to check your spelling, and it's still, whatever gets produced still comes out looking with error-free. And bad spelling really annoys me.
Did you read the article about the fact that, you know, that it's got something to do with the intelligence?
Yeah.
Why do we make a big deal about it?
I agree with Melody. I don't think spelling has to do with intelligence, but Casey was saying in the article as well that she doesn't think that, you know, some people see that if you are a bad speller, they're seen as lazy, and she doesn't agree with that. I kind of disagree. I think with all the technology we have available to us, like autocorrect and spell check, if you hand in a document or a resume with a spelling error in it, it kind of does look lazy that you haven't bothered to go through and check it, at least.
Working in the media industry, I know that if I seen a resume come across my desk that had typos, it would go to the bottom of the pile, if not out of the pile. Only because in the industry, well, in the media industry and in journalism, writing and whatnot, spelling is important, and I think it's a skill. I do think it's got something to do with intelligence.
I think it's a skill as well. I think it's a sign of education more than it is intelligence, because you have to sit and learn how to spell all those things. So it's not a sign of how intelligent you are. But I think one thing that's interesting is, like, Malcolm Gladwell has this whole concept about the advantage of disadvantage, and he talks about there are a number of CEOs who are actually dyslexic, and they've been able to use that disadvantage that they have to surpass it, to work harder. So I think that there are people. I think what she was saying as well is that she has trouble spelling. It's not so much that she can't spell, but she actually has trouble with spelling. So I think some people take those disadvantages and make them advantages, and I think that's a sign of intelligence.
It'd be like if you're bad at maths, for example. It's not really a reflection of your intelligence. It just means that you're just not as gifted in that particular area.
But in the same sense, if you were to, like this lady's a journalist, if you're calling yourself a mathematician, for instance, and yet you use a calculator to get the result rather than you can't add on paper, for me, it just doesn't sit well.
Well, I think you just use whatever tools that you have. So I don't mind that if she's a journalist that she cannot spell, because she still has a team behind her to help her with that. So long as, of course, you know, she uses all the tools that she can, including spell check.
But I think in defending her shortcomings, it discredits the industry. And spelling, I think, is still very important.
Wait, I want to ask you all a question. If you were to receive a letter or an email from someone and it just had lots of typos, would you just say, oh, this person's not intelligent, or what would you think about them when you got that?
I would want to correct. I would want to proofread and send it back.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're not intelligent, because let's be honest, we've all been in a situation where you're just typing really fast and spell check, spell check doesn't even know what to tell you because you've spelt a word so wrong.
What about in social instances when you get an email from a friend or even text messages? I mean, you know, we shorthand all the time. Is that, when you're making typos in that instance, is that okay?
That's usually fine. Like, when it's friends communicating, you know that it's a short, like a quick message. It's going to be...
But just in a professional level, I guess you're saying,
I have actually chosen, like, you know, when I decide whether to use a plumber or not, and I go onto their website, right? If there's spelling mistake, I'm like, I'm going to the next plumber.
Yeah, interesting. Look, does spelling matter to you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram or YouTube and continue the conversation there. But right now, we're going to be checking out Gia and Ollie, who are in the kitchen cooking some chia and eggs. Let's check this out.
Yes, we are. We're making chia seed eggs. We're just going to show you a way to make a substitute for those that have, like, lots of children today have egg allergies, and adults have egg allergies. So this is a healthier way to make eggs and to add to your cakes and your loaves. But it's full of nutrition, isn't it? It's got omega-3s. But I'm going to show you two ways to do it. You can use the seed whole, and this is what it looks like. If you use the seed whole, it looks like this once you've added the water. So it's all sticky, like an egg. It's going to bind things together for you. And otherwise, I grind it, and this is what it looks like if you grind it. It's a bit finer. And so we're going to grind it and show you how to do it on the spot. How about you grind it? This is just a coffee grinder, or if you've got one of those mixers that grind. Thank you, that's good. And can you put it in here for me? All of it, tip it over, all in. Thank you. And so I've got two, because I need to substitute 2 eggs. I've got 2 spoons of chia seed. And now I'm going to add the water. Go on. No, you've got to put the water in here. So 2, 3. Yeah, you go. 4. We've got to do 5, 6. And that substitutes 2 just medium-sized eggs. If you want to make substitute for large ones, just add another 2 tablespoons of water, and there you have it, your chia seed egg. Do you want to add some more?
Yeah.
Let's put some more. 1, 2 for our large egg. Yay! And there you have it. Omega-3, fibre, instead of eggs, it does the job.
That's great for vegans.
I'm actually really excited because I just started eating vegan, so I'm kind of excited. But I wouldn't do scrambled eggs because, you know, they look a little weird for scrambled.
Scrambled chia eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah. definitely got to try that with the kids. Now, we're moving on to diversity on television. According to a PricewaterhouseCoopers report, 80% of people in the entertainment and media industry are monolingual and speak only English at home. This lack of diversity has resulted in a decline of interest in people watching television and taking to Australian television per se, I guess. Maritza, what do you think about diversity on television?
I think it's fantastic. And reading the article, for example, they featured 3 different women.
Yeah,
very
the
different
article in The
journalists.
Age.
Yeah, the article in The Age. And I guess, consider myself very blessed because when I was growing up and I wanted to be a journalist, at home we would watch SBS and ABC News rather than, Channel 7 and Channel 9. So I grew up with, for example, Leland Chin on SBS or Janice Peterson on SBS or Katrina Carvalho. And looking at female journalists like that, they were really diverse, and so that for me was fantastic.
Yeah,
in
I
seeing
think
that.
one of the ladies in that article, in the Age article, was Kim Taguchi, and she's an ABC News reporter. Back when she first started out, the directors actually said she wouldn't make it in TV because of the way she looked. Now she's, I think, part Asian, and I think back in, I guess you grew up with people of different ethnics on TV, but that's not how I grew up watching Australian television. Home and Away and Neighbours was predominantly a whitewash, and these were that was what we watched on TV. And growing up, I just couldn't relate.
It is still a lack. It is getting better, but there is still a severe lack of representation in media in general. It's not just TV. It's in print, it's really, really ironic because, Australia prides itself as a multicultural community, right? But when you look at media, it's getting better, but it's still not great. It's still unfortunately, a lot of white representation.
I agree. With 19 million in Australia and 1 in 4 come from different countries or born overseas, it's not reflected on our television screens. You just have to wake up in the morning and, Sunrise, Today shows, it's predominantly white cultures. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't connect to the people watching it. It's not serving the ethnic minorities, and we're supposed to be multicultural.
It makes it really bad because, growing up, I wanted to be blonde and white.
Yeah, and that becomes your idea of beauty and what is accepted, what's the norm. Rachel, what do you think?
I think people want to open magazines and they want to look on TV and they want to see someone who looks like themselves. They want to feel like they're somehow represented. But I think on the flip side, as we're waiting for the media to do that, in this culture of social media, so many people are just creating their own channels. YouTube is just such a big platform that people are saying, I'm not going to wait for someone to give me an opportunity. I'm going to create my own opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab a camera, grab my phone, and I'm going to just start talking about issues that are
and they
relevant
do that
to my
very well in
community.
New Zealand. I know with the Pacific Island community, we've started doing our own fashion shows. We have our own fashion labels. We have our own designers and also television programs because we couldn't relate. I know New Zealand does it better than Australia, but I think we have a long way to go in terms of representing our people or the communities, ethnic minorities on TV, on Australian TV.
And I do wonder actually whether, what you were saying, Rachel, that there's a lot of social media representation now, whether that's actually the reason why the mainstream media is getting better now?
Well, I think that they're going to follow the money. So as they
Exactly.
see that communities are not engaging and that they're able to pull dollars to another platform, sometimes they actually pick up those shows. So they'll see a show does really well on social media, and then a major network will then offer them a contract to have that show on a major platform.
And I think a lot of us also switch on to American TV. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this diversity on TV. Do you think that there is enough diversity? Let us know on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. But for now, let's have a look at isometric holds with Alicia. Check this out.
Hi, Alicia here. I'm the table's personal trainer. Today I've got lovely Shona with me, and we're going to look at doing a couple of lower body, in particular booty exercises.
Booty!
Beauty. That are going to actually, they're called isometric holds, which means you're not going to go up and down with things. Instead, you're going to hold them in place. Okay, so the first exercise is called a glute raise hold. I'm going to get you to lie down on your back for me with your legs bent. And just have your arms waist-side, that's perfect. Now what you're going to do from here, Shona, is you're going to lift your bottom up off the floor while keeping those heels pressed into the floor. And once you come up, I want you to do your best to squeeze those butt cheeks and just hold it in place there for a few seconds.
It's a long time since they've been squeezed.
Okay, beautiful. All right, can you feel that?
Yeah, I've got a cramp.
Oh, you got a cramp. You can come down at any point if you need to. Okay, now just by coming up and holding, it's going to be harder than if you went down and up, down and up, down and up, right? So this is just a way that you can actually make an exercise a little harder and a little bit more challenging. Does that make sense?
So basically, like you're just suggesting that with whichever exercise that we do,
Yeah.
we hold it for a while.
Yeah.
before.
That's right. The longer time that a muscle is under tension, the more it's going to have blood pump to that area and make a change, right? So, wow, look at you go. I
know.
I know.
Relaxing.
That is awesome. Now, what I do is I love putting these together in 20-second little intervals, right? So I'd hold that for 20 seconds, rest for 10, and then come up again. And if you did that 8 times, that's 4 minutes, and you've given your glutes a really good workout. Yep, okay. Now the second one, I'm going to get you, Rach, to hop up for me. And this is called a squat hold. So you're going to basically just make sure your feet are about under your hips, and you're going to sit back into squat. I use my arms out in front. I stick my butt right back.
Go.
Keep that chest up nice and tall. And see if you can come just a little bit lower for me. Yeah. Now, I want you to try and hold there and just tell me when you start to feel it burning.
I felt it burning straight away. So does that count?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Now, that is going to, again, do the same thing that the glute hold did, but it's going to actually target your quads just a little bit as well as your glutes. Okay.
So if you've got bad knees or ankles,
Yeah. Yes, definitely got some alternatives. So what
Okay.
I would do, Shona, is if you were to sit on a seat, for example, you could do leg extension hold. So you're sitting down and maybe Rach.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Yep.
If you just sit and you just lift up, or no, actually sit on the seat for me. Yep. And just lift up one leg and hold it out straight. Now, it's not going to take too long before you're going to
Oh.
start feeling that.
we can do that while we're watching TV, while you're watching the table.
There you go. Right.
Or breastfeeding.
Yeah.
That's one way that you can do it. Another way is you could be lying down, and if you were lying down and you bring your legs up, you could then just hold them there, and you're going to get a little bit of tension as well. So you want to try that one too?
So just lying down like that and just lift it up?
Yeah, you could hold it up, or if you bend your knees and bring them into tabletop. So bring this one down for me, and bring the foot to the ground, and then bend this knee as well. Now lift both feet up off the ground. Yep. And if you try and extend them to make a 90-degree angle.
Oh,
She's feeling.
that made everything quiver.
Okay, so the whole idea is with these holds is you're putting those muscles under tension for longer, and that's going to give your whole body just a whole new way of working out as well. Yeah. So if you want to do some of these, one of the workouts that we've put up on the YouTube channel that we have is based on these 2 exercises and doing them for 20-second intervals. So go to that link right there on your screen, jump in and join us for a workout, and I'm sure you will enjoy it.
Now, joining us in the studio is Kay Kuzma. She's here all the way from the States. She is a motivational speaker and author of over 35 books, including The First 7 Years, and we are so blessed to have her here in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Kay, I know you wrote the book The First 7 Years.
Yes.
I wanted to know, why did you write that book? Because it's why not the first 10 years, the first 5 years? Why the first 7 years?
The first 7 years is basically the whole molding of a child's character. And you pretty much know at 7 years of age what kind of an adult that child will be. You know the decisions they're making, you know what kind of motivates them. And the first 7 years is like an open window of possibility
So are you
to
saying
teach that child.
if we don't mould in that first 7 years,
It gets harder.
Okay.
It's not impossible,
It's a lot
but
of
it does
pressure.
get harder.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
What's the best thing you can do during that first 7 years?
Love that kid. You see, when you're working with a child, everything you teach that child is basically discipline. To discipline means to teach. And if we know why a child is doing certain things, then we will react differently. Well, the number one reason children need discipline is because they want attention. And until what I call their little love cups are full to overflowing, they don't have enough love to give away. And so you use that love, you use that attention, giving them positive attention as maybe your first way of disciplining a child.
Okay, so that's the link between, because I know you mentioned love that child, but also discipline the child. So how does
Right.
that? How do you find that even keel so that you're not creating fear, I guess, when you're disciplining a child?
You need to know why the kid is doing what he's doing. And the second reason is they want control. They want to win. And you deal differently with that than if they want attention. For example, if they want to win and they've just begun to fight with you, you have to ask, is the fight worth it at this point? Or can I teach the lesson that I want to teach them in another way? So you have to think about children as strings. If you try to push that string in the way you want it to go, it will resist. So instead, motivate, encourage, help that child, show that child what to do, rather than thinking that you have to do something to punish the child. Actually, I don't believe in punishment.
Okay, it's really interesting because you're talking about punishment, and I think we often associate that with discipline. So what do you see, like, what's your idea of discipline? You've talked a lot about teaching.
To discipline means to teach. You're right, Rachel. To discipline means to teach.
And how are you teaching those lessons?
So you do it with understanding the child first. And the third reason why children disobey or need discipline is they've got all this emotion running around and they just scream or throw a temper tantrum, and you deal with that differently. You have to look underneath. I call it the iceberg. All you see is the iceberg behavior, let's say the temper tantrum. You have to get to the emotion underneath, listen to the emotion underneath, and many times the negative behavior goes away. So it's just learning those techniques.
So sometimes you might see the same behavior, but there might be a different underlying reason.
Exactly, exactly.
Rich, you were going to say something?
I
sorry?
just had a quick question. So children, for example, will throw tantrums?
Yeah, temper tantrums.
That's it. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Parents, I've heard as well, will also get to that stage where they just want to throw something, possibly sell the child on eBay because they're acting out. How do parents deal with that while still showing love to the child?
Well, I don't think I would go along with selling the child on eBay. But you have to realize you are constantly the model that the kids are picking up.
So is it really the parents' fault? Because I hear it all the time. Oh, if they get it from their mum, or oh, they get it from their dad. But
they will
surely.
pick up what you do. I had a little kid at nursery school who suddenly went over to the table when he got angry or a chair and just beat upon it. And I said to the mom, that's such strange behavior. And she said, oh, you should have seen my husband last night. He couldn't get the refrigerator door open and he went over and he just beat upon it. And that same behavior was shown the next day in school. So they do pick up how you react to emotions very, very early.
So I just wanted to know, if some parents are watching and they say, oh, I'm past 7 years, is there no hope for me? What can they do?
No.
Is there anything
No, there's always hope, but the older the child gets, if you become the firm authoritarian, the more chance is that you're going to get conflict and rebellion. And so I always suggest, as the child is able to make decisions, let the child choose what consequence would teach him the lesson. It may not be the consequence that you would give him, but if he chooses it, in fact, it may be even worse than you would give him, but if he chooses it, it becomes a lesson for him. And you're teaching him he is responsible for his own behavior. He is the decision-making person, and you can choose to act in such a way that society will be good to you or society will give you more consequences.
Okay, I'm just a bit wondering because, like, you know, what you've been saying, loving the child, spending time with the child. There's a lot of families nowadays where, you know, both parents have to go out to work, and so they don't spend as much time with the child. Is there an advice where you can give, where there's this work-family balance that you can give for parents who have to go out and not spend as much time with their children?
There's no substitute for time. Children spell love T-I-M-E. So we have to realize that. So that the time you have with your children needs to be as positive as possible. So you look at your discipline as teaching rather than becoming antagonistic that pulls you apart. And I think it's very important to realize that you can be a working mom and still do a great job with your kids. It all depends upon your attitude. If you love work, come home enthusiastic, hey, the kids are going to be, chances are, fine. But if you hate working and say that husband of mine, why doesn't he earn more money, you know, and you have that negative attitude, they won't do well. But if you love being home, they will do well too. So it's that attitude that you have toward being the mom of these kids that means everything.
Great. Look, there's some great tips there, Kay. I really appreciate you sharing your insights with us, and I guess we've all got some great tips to go home with, and Maritza as well, when you start having children. And but next we're going to move on to a topic about when should your child leave home, or are they leaving home? Because some articles in the ABC and also Sydney Morning Herald here in Australia talks about failure to launch, kids being still stuck at home, not leaving home, and then some kids boomerang children, where they leave home and then come back home, whether it be because they couldn't afford the rent or the bills or whatever the case might be. Rachel, is there a deadline of when Jax has to get out of the house?
I'd say absolutely not, but I think it's more about what Jax is doing. There's no way that he's going to sit in my house and do nothing, and, you know, I cater to him. But if he has a job, if he has maybe invested somewhere else and decides to stay home, I think it's more about what Jax is doing while he's living in the house. You know, I'm happy to be supportive of him in some way. Like I left home to go to boarding school, and I ended up moving back in after college, but I had a job. I was very responsible. So I think there's no substitute for the amount of time you get to spend with your parents, because you don't know how long they're going to be here.
So true. I think in the Western society, it is. I hear some people say, you know, when my kids are 18, out the door with them. But culturally, where I come from, our home is home. Home is always going to be home, and the doors are always open. So there is no talk. Kay, what do you think about?
I think too many kids are taking advantage of their parents. I know kids that are back home, sponging off their folks, not willing to mow the lawn, not willing to clean up the kitchen if they come in and find it messy, but they're just there because they're earning money for the boat that they want, or they're, you know, it's just easy breezy. They don't have to worry about being responsible for the household, for the bills, for the taxes, and I think that you need to have a plan for launching your kids. And they need to know at a certain time you expect them to be self-sufficient, like you're mentioning. And if they choose to come home, hey, maybe pay rent, or tell me what you're going to do to help out in this situation, since we're all living together.
So by that time, they should be a housemate, not a child, kind of. Like, you know.
But, you know, I always say to kids, if you choose to be in your parents' home, they're the boss. So that can move a lot.
As long as you're in my roost, this is how it goes. I guess everyone's different, but whatever works for you. Look, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much, Kay, for joining us. And also, ladies, great having a chat. Have an awesome week. I hope you found something insightful this week. All the best. God bless.